Why is it so hard to use intuitive wisdom in business? That's what I want to talk to you about in this workshop. And the answer is that there is a lot of pressure not to use your intuition. There's a lot of so-called proof about what works. It's a proof about what works within what exists, but it is a lot of pressure to conform to that in order to create a success that is widely acceptable. Problem is, of course, that success means different things to each of us, and we get to determine that ourselves, not by what everybody else expects us to have. So using intuition is like becomes a bit of a battleground, because there's, on the one hand, this is what it means to be in business, and there's, on the other hand, this is what it means to be an intuitive person. It seems to be quite hard to get the two sides to meet. The thing is, if you aren't using your intuitive wisdom in your business, then there's two things happening. One is that you're denying yourself, because you're either not using it and pushing it completely to the side, or you're using it but you're labeling it as something else. You're trying to make it acceptable. You're trying to elevate it to something that can be considered to be perceived wisdom, or you're denying it completely. And for an intuitive person, that's really, really uncomfortable. It's actually a denial of yourself. It's also a denial of your business potential, because your intuitive wisdom is so much broader than your intellectual wisdom and your societal wisdom. There's much more available to you when you are embracing that. In business, we need a lot of skills. We need a mosaic of skills. But what if your intuition can be elevated to one of those core skills in business, whereas it's given a platform, it's given a place, it's given a role within your business? What happens then? Well, you start to deviate from the mainstream path. That's inevitable. There's nothing you can do to stop that happening. As soon as you give your intuition a voice in business, you are going to step off the path of what everybody else is doing. That's inevitable, and you need to learn to accept that in order to apply intuitive wisdom in your business. The other things that are going to happen is that you're going to start to relate to your business differently. You're going to start to feel your business differently. You're going to start to see where it's going, and see a broader landscape for it to work in. And you're going to start to have different dialogue and a different relationship with your work and what's going on. So there's lots of changes that happen once you start working intuitively, because you allow a deeper conversation to happen. But how do you start to do that when there's a lot of programming, there's a lot of conditioning that is in place that keeps you working at a very intellectual, logical level in your business, and not accessing or not giving voice to this deeper intuitive wisdom? Well, there are 3 stages I'm going to walk you through to try and tap into that and to begin to open up the dialogue with your intuitive wisdom, so that you are trusting it, giving it a voice, giving it a place, and beginning to integrate it into your business. Because when you integrate it into your business and you begin to make your decisions from an intuitive place that is then cascaded out to your other tools for interpretation, then your business is going to be on a completely different footing. It's going to be in a much more, should we say, sustainable place, because it's always going to be moving from the same core drivers rather than trying to move from the external stimuluses that are coming in. So let's begin by identifying a challenge that you've been facing in your business that you want to solve. So let's just bring it into your awareness. And as you bring it into your awareness, also call in all the things that you've done to try and solve it. We want those to be acknowledged. We want to know that they are there, but we're going to put them to one side. We're going to say, okay, this is what you've done. We're going to put that to one side. It's still there, and this is the problem that you have. So I want you to try and call that into your awareness, and it might help to just sit and quietly close your eyes, take a few deep breaths. I want you to be as detached from the challenge as possible, because there may be an emotional sort of level of intensity that around that challenge that you're facing. And just try and be as detached and as calm about it as you can, because our first step is going to be to check in with our body wisdom and our body intuition in order to begin to understand how to respond to it. So our body is the home to our five senses, and our five senses are our means of receiving and interpreting intuitive wisdom. Our body is this extraordinarily wise part of us that we need to take time to listen to. So as you call this challenge to mind, just be aware of your body, because you're going to feel that in a very specific place in your body. And where you feel it is going to give you some insight. Now, when you call that in, is it giving you a contraction energy? Do you feel like your belly tightening? Do you feel your throat tightening? Or do you feel an expansion energy? Do you feel your heart wanting to just crack open? Do you feel your perception wanting to expand? If you're feeling a contraction energy, then obviously there's a fear, there's a frustration there perhaps. But if you're feeling expansion energy, even though it's a challenge and you're feeling it, it's telling you that this is an opportunity. That doesn't mean to say that if you have got this contraction energy that it's not an opportunity. It's just that your body is reading it as something that is going to challenge you in a different way. So, and it may be challenging you to overcome some of the core challenges that you face in your life. It may also be challenging you to overcome some of the collective challenges that we all face. So, these are not things that are just exclusive to you. So, where are you feeling it? What's it telling you? Just really pay attention to your whole body, because you will have been drawn initially to one particular place, one particular thing that would have been feeling like, either tight or expanding. But that may be masking a more subtle secondary sensation that you're getting. What we're trying to do here is understand how our body receives and moves and interprets intuition. So knowing how your intuition speaks to you is the key here, because unless you know that piece, you can't engage it and trust it. That's the key. That's another big piece of this. So you have to be able to trust your intuition. If you're like, oh, is that what I got? Was that the sign that is that my intuition? Is that my ego? Is that something else? Is that my head getting in the way? You'll never know that unless you understand how your intuition speaks to you. So each of us will experience that very differently. And our senses are our clues. Now, you may not feel it as a sense, for example, because I know for me, I am claircognizant primarily, and I don't get thoughts. There's just this the only way to describe it is like this constructed knowing. It's like it's complete, it's whole. I have all the pieces of it. It's just there in my head. It hasn't come from anywhere, and it just appears. And it's not even like it's a thought. It just appears in my awareness. That took a long time for me to understand how that functioned. So I know that when those things just sort of like, it's almost like they drop in, but you don't even feel them dropping in. But everybody's intuition is so unique that it's communicating with you in a different way. So while you're in your body, while you're talking to your body is telling you how your intuition speaks to you. So maybe you're feeling it through a sensation of maybe warmth or cold, or maybe you've got an emotional feeling, or maybe you've got like jittery, or maybe you've just got this sort of like stillness, or all of these things are clues. And also where you are feeling it is going to give you an indication of how the challenge is affecting you. So you might want to pay attention to where on your energy system you are feeling it, and then spend a little time researching what those points mean and how you sort of chime with what you hear. So it might be that you feel quite differently about some aspects of Maybe you're feeling it in your root area and you feel differently to what you're reading. So it's a process of exploration. It's still going to give you an insight into what the challenge is. So our body wisdom is our first port of call in cultivating intuitive wisdom that we can use then in our business. So the next part of this exercise is to begin to engage your problem-solving skills, your creative problem-solving skills. The biggest leaps that we ever make are intuitive. They're not logical, they're intuitive. So when we can call to mind the challenge that you're facing, see it in front of you, and remember that everything that you've tried so far, you're acknowledging it's put to one side for now. So see the challenge in front of you. See it whole in front of you. See what it looks like, what it feels like, acknowledge it, and then begin to see yourself walking around it. Even if it looks completely symmetrical, completely uniform, walk all the way around it, because as you're walking around it, you're seeing it from a different side. You're seeing different aspects of it. And as you walk around it, your intuition is going to be talking to you. It's going to be honing its ability to talk to you. So coming back to our senses and how do we receive it, then you're going to be starting to, maybe you're going to get thoughts popping into your head. Maybe you'll hear music. Maybe you will hear or you'll feel temperature changes, or see color, or get the desire to move in a particular way. All of these things are part of our intuitive insight. Now, it's very rare for anybody's intuition to speak to them in language that we can understand. It's our job to relearn the language of intuition and translate it. And the process of translating is a process of trust. So as you're walking around this challenge, you're looking at what it is like, and hopefully you are beginning to have your intuition saying, this is what it means, this is what it looks like, and this is what we can do. We're wanting to begin to draw out our creative genius to solve this challenge, to find the pieces of the puzzle that we haven't yet found, to find the avenues of opportunity that are open to us, and to engage the innovative solutions that are within us. This challenge is not beyond you. You are a creative genius. When you unlock your soul wisdom, your intuitive guidance, anything is possible. So keep walking around it, taking in what it's telling you, beginning to feel into the myriad of solutions that are actually open to you. So you're really beginning to get an idea of the possibility and the opportunity that is open to you at this particular point with this particular challenge. So now we're going to begin to start to explore those possibilities. And the important thing here is to do all of your exploration without judgment. So as you are getting these insights, as you are beginning to understand what avenues are open to you, you can begin to assess them, begin to explore them without judgment, just saying, you're really wanting to move into what if territory. You aren't in mitigating risk mode, you are in embracing possibility mode. And that's such a big shift to make when you change from mitigating risk, which is like, well, what if that goes wrong? And when we're in that frame of mind, it's like, what could go wrong? And how will I manage what could go wrong? And what are the risks if it all goes wrong? When we shift into what if it could go right, and what can I do to help it go right? And it's a completely different energy that we're using to explore it. So that's what I want you to really be feeling into, is like, well, what if? How could that be? How could that work? How could I make that work? And there are some other questions that underlie all of this. It's like, well, what do I need to develop as a skill set to make this work? Who do I need to become to make this work? What resources do I need to make this work? And we are aiming for simplicity always, but it's important to sort of, let's say, okay, what I need to make this happen, and to resource it. And if you're honest about that, and sometimes that might be, it could be extremely daunting, and it could be, just like, I have no idea. But it doesn't mean that it should be excluded from your choices because you don't know how it could happen. So I think that's really important, that we're just exploring without judgment. You're looking at, who do I need to become? What do I need to develop? How do I need to resource this in order to make it happen? So you're really feeling into what could be done. So I'm hoping that you are going through this, you're beginning to get an idea of, this is what you've done, and that hasn't taken you forward. It doesn't mean that what you did was wrong, but it wasn't supporting you in the moment. And maybe it was just the way that you were doing it that wasn't quite tuned in enough. But there are opportunities, I hope, opening up to you. There's avenues that you can explore. So the question then becomes, what are the actions that you can take to begin to move forward with this? Now, the important thing here is to make them small actions at this point. You don't want this great, huge requirement to leap and bound through this. If you're trying to cultivate your intuition, you don't want to be setting yourself huge targets for trusting it. The bigger the leap, the more difficult this is going to be on your ability to hold it. So what you want to be doing is sort of like, what small actions can I take in this direction? And the important thing then is to be observant about what happens when you are following your intuition. How does it feel to be following your intuition? Because it should feel better to you than when you're following your logic. You should feel better in your body. You should have more energy, and you should feel more comfortable. That doesn't mean to say you always will, but even when you're being challenged to the extreme, it's going to have a level of feeling right when you're following your intuition. So we want to take some small actions at this point. You're cultivating intuitive wisdom, not mastering it at this point. It's cultivating. We're all on the journey to mastery. We all have those moments where, it's like we're in a space of doubt. So let's not design in at this point a challenge that we don't need. What small step can you take to begin to enact and embody and bring on stream your intuitive wisdom so that you can make it one of the mosaic of tools that you use in your business every single day? Take that small step, observe what happens, and prepare yourself to take another small step. And that is the simple way to begin to bring your intuition into your business. And I really hope that you have so much fun doing just that. Take care until next time.